Welcome to the Read This channel. Subscribe. Support those who write today.
Jack Rivers, Darkness Under the Hill. Chapter 1. The Town That Didn't Want to Wake Up. Graham Hollow woke slowly, like a sick man roused too early. Morning never arrived abruptly here. The sun climbed over the hills reluctantly, as if checking whether it was too dark to waste its rays. Adam Leone sat in his car at the entrance to the town and stared at the yellow sign. Welcome to Graham Hollow, established 1884. The letters looked fresh, as if repainted recently, but the board itself was cracked, and beneath it grew a clump of scraggy weeds that looked like an old grave. "Lovely place," Adam muttered, and stepped out. He was here for work, a geologist, an engineer, and, as he had once believed, a man who could predict when the earth would tremble. But for the past 6 months, something strange had been happening beneath the town. Microquakes, sinkholes, cracks in the foundations of buildings. A large company hired him to investigate. "Just groundwater, Mr. Leone," Mayor Nina Jang assured him over the phone. "Nothing more, but people are nervous. They need a specialist to say everything is under control." Adam was used to working with fractures, both in the ground and in people. He noticed things others ignored, and his first few seconds in Graham Hollow already told him this town was afraid. Afraid for a long time. Afraid quietly. Afraid of something he hadn't yet seen. The first people he encountered looked drained. Shoulders hunched, empty eyes, quick glances over their shoulders, as if each of them expected someone invisible to be following. When Adam walked into the local diner, Mary's Diner, the bell above the door rang so loudly it seemed offended. Behind the counter stood a woman in her 40s with neatly styled hair. She held herself straight, but her hands trembled, barely noticeably. "Coffee?" she asked. "Yes, please. And breakfast. What's the safest thing you've got?" Adam tried to joke. She didn't smile. "Eggs, bacon, and—" She leaned closer. "If you're here about the tremors, just say everything is fine. People are on edge." "Did something happen?" Adam asked, watching her closely. She hesitated far too long. "Just, the town changed. That's all." The door of the diner creaked softly. The sheriff walked in. A broad-shouldered man with red eyes, as if he'd slept 2 hours at best. "You Leone?" he asked. "Yeah." "Sheriff Lucas Meyer. We're glad you came, or we're supposed to be glad." Adam narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean, supposed to?" The sheriff opened his mouth to answer, but at that moment a sound rumbled, A dull, short thud, like someone struck the earth with a sledgehammer. A low vibration passed through the diner floor. Glasses on the shelves rattled. "Oh, God," the waitress whispered. Sheriff and Adam exchanged a look. "Tremor?" Adam asked. "Yes." Lucas clenched his teeth. "But not exactly." He stepped outside first, Adam following. The street was unnervingly quiet. People had come out of their houses, shops, all looking at one point, the hill beyond the town. An old hill, overgrown with grass. In its center, a bald patch of bare soil. And from that bald spot rose smoke. No, not smoke. Something black, viscous, like a shadow shaped into smoke. "What the hell?" Adam whispered. "We call it—" The sheriff began, but didn't finish. A 5-year-old boy, standing with his mother by the roadside, suddenly tore free from her hand and ran toward the hill. "Ben!" the woman screamed. The boy ran as if in a dream. Fast, unnatural steps. He didn't look back. Adam saw his face. There was a smile on it. But the eyes were glassy, unmoving. "Stop!" the sheriff shouted, and rushed after him. But the boy was already climbing the hill. The black, smoky mass seemed to move toward him. "Benjamin!" His mother collapsed to her knees, screaming.
Lucas nearly reached the boy. He stretched out his arm, grabbed the child's shoulder, and in that instant the black mass surged forward. It wasn't smoke. It was alive. It snapped downward as if lunging, then shot upward, slamming into the sheriff's chest. Lucas flew back as if hit by a truck. He hit the ground, gasping. The boy stood still. He slowly turned his head toward the town, and then he smiled. Truly smiled. Wide, not human. Then Adam saw something he would remember forever. The boy absorbed the black mass into his chest, as if the shadow entered him, as if he was a doorway. The smoke vanished inside him completely. The child's eyes turned black. He took one step forward, and the ground beneath the hill, old clay covered in grass, shuddered like the skin of a living creature. A crack crawled across it, slowly, ominously, heading toward the town. "What is that?" Leonie whispered. The sheriff staggered to his feet. A black mark, like a burn, stained his shirt. He looked at Adam with the expression of a man who had seen something like this before. "That, Leonie, is the blackness under the hill." Chapter 2. The Cracks That Can't Be Stitched. The sheriff was taken to the clinic 15 minutes later.
He protested, cursed, insisted he could stand on his own. But the boy's mother, the same woman who had screamed on the hill, was already in hysterics. She was shaking so violently it looked as if she were standing in the middle of a winter field. And the boy, Ben, was gone. He had disappeared, simply dissolved into the same bushes where the blackness had seeped. Atom stood in the road as the ambulance carried Lucas Meyer away, and he felt the faintest vibration beneath his feet. So slight it was almost imagined, but constant, as if someone was breathing just under the asphalt. When the vehicle vanished behind a bend, he drew a deep breath, turned, and saw Mare Nina Zhang. She appeared so suddenly, as if she had stepped out of the blackness itself. Small, thin, hair neatly tied, dressed in a strict dark suit, but in her eyes too much knowledge. "Mr. Leone," she said quietly, "we need to talk." They sat in her office at the town hall. The room was bright and spacious, but the air felt thick, viscous. Atom sensed it the moment he crossed the threshold. Shelves lined the walls, filled with documents. Too many papers, too many archives, too many folders labeled geological reports. The tremors increased 2 weeks ago. Cracks appeared in the basements of the Eastern District. We had to evacuate several homes. "Why wasn't I told this earlier?" Atom asked. "Because if you had been, you wouldn't have come." She said it with no hint of a joke. Atom studied her face in silence. This woman wasn't afraid of the blackness, but she was afraid of something else, something worse hanging over the town than what had happened that morning.
"That thing that attacked the sheriff," Adam began. "You knew something like this was possible?" She lifted her eyes, and for the first time in their conversation, something flashed in them. Fear. "This isn't the first time," she whispered. "How many times?" A pause. 12. Adam nearly cursed. "You're telling me this has happened before? People disappeared?" Nina nodded. "But not like this, not openly. The blackness behaved differently. It took people one by one, from a house, a barn, the roadside. We tried to hide it." "Why?" She closed the folder and looked straight at him. "Because if people learn the whole truth, the town will collapse. And if the town collapses, nothing will stop what's beneath the hill." Adam clenched his fists. "Nina, I'm a geologist, not an exorcist, not a demon hunter. Why me? Why call me?" She stood and walked to the window. The hill was reflected in the glass, an amorphous lump looming over the town. She turned toward him. "This isn't magic," she said quietly. "It's a fault." She turned toward him. "There's a void beneath the hill, a massive one. It formed more than 100 years ago during mining, but the mine wasn't shut down because of a cave-in, as the reports say. A hot current of professional focus and something darker ran through Adam.
Then why? Nina opened the safe near her desk and retrieved an old, charred folder. A date was written on it, 1903. These records were found in the home of a former miner. He wrote that something moved underground, that the walls breathed, that the darkness down there was thick like oil, that it whispered. Adam took the papers. The first pages were torn notes, the handwriting breaking into frantic scratches, and at the end, one short sentence written in trembling letters. She wants to come up. Imagination. Ramblings. Miners inhaled coal dust, that's all. The tremors, Nina interrupted. What about them? They're not going from top to bottom. She stepped closer. They're going from bottom to top, as if something is pushing the earth from inside. Adam fell silent. Deep down, he already understood this wasn't just an anomaly. The earth genuinely moved in a way it should not. And today, the blackness didn't hide. It showed itself. It took a child. It struck the sheriff. It's coming out. It isn't waiting anymore. Adam stepped to the window. The hill was quiet, too quiet, like after a fainting spell. What do you want me to do? Nina inhaled sharply. You must find the fault. And then what? Her answer was ice. Close it before the town disappears. Outside the town hall, a crowd was gathering, shouting, swearing, demanding answers, especially after the news about Ben had spread. Some claimed they saw the boy climb the hill and vanish. Others insisted a creature took him. Others yelled it was just damned underground pockets of gas. Adam pushed through the crowd, people grabbing at his sleeves. Hey, you're the engineer, right? Tell us it's just a quake. Tell us it's not something alive. Tell us everything will be fine. Adam said nothing. He couldn't. But the worst was another voice, shaking behind him. If the blackness is back, then it'll start again. What will start? Adam turned sharply. In the crowd stood an old man with a white beard and faded eyes. He stared at the hill as if it were a grave he had once dug himself. Cleansing, he said. It always cleans the land before it comes out. Who are you? Adam asked. My name is Elias Marlowe. I am a survivor. Of what? The old man raised his hand and pointed at the hill, and his answer was so quiet only Adam heard it. Of that night, the night the blackness went house to house, the night we lost half the town. A chill ran down Adam's spine. When was this? 72. The old man drew a line in the air with his finger, as if marking something invisible. We thought we stopped it back then. He looked at the hill again. We were wrong.
That evening, the sky over Graham Hollow turned an eerie crimson. People shut their windows, locked their doors, though none of them could say why. On the edge of town, in a small wooden house, a girl named Ivy Blackwell sat on her bed, hugging her pillow, trembling. Because she heard voices, not ordinary ones, not her parents, not neighbors. These voices came from below, from beneath the floor. They whispered her name, Ivy, Ivy, open. With every tremor, with every shiver of the ground, the voices grew louder, more insistent. And suddenly one of them changed, became deeper, male, foreign. But she recognized it. It was Ben's voice. Help me. Let me in. Open the door, Ivy. She pressed her hands over her ears and screamed, but the voices didn't fade. They laughed. On the far edge of town, past the houses, past the barns, past the old cemetery, stood the hill. And where the crack had been that morning, the earth moved. First, barely, then stronger, stronger, stronger. And from the very depths, beneath clay and limestone, came a sound that didn't exist in nature, a low, guttural, wet breath. And words, formless, yet understood by any living creature. I am rising. Chapter 3. The Darkness That Doesn't Wait. Night fell over Graham Hollow like the heavy lid of a coffin, and the silence that always came with it was different. Not calm, not sheltering, but alert, as if the town knew something was moving, and it was safer not to make a sound, so it wouldn't hear them. Adam Leone sat in the motel room the town hall had arranged for him, a small space that smelled of old plastic and overused cooking oil. Outside, an empty road lit by a flickering street lamp, and the hill, always visible no matter where you stood in the town. Adam couldn't take his eyes off its dark, uneven silhouette. He felt something was moving there. Not imagination, not superstition. Instinct, animal, ancient, never wrong. He returned to Nina's documents, old mining reports, residents' complaints, photos of sinkholes. But the most important item was the diagram of the fault beneath the hill. And suddenly he understood. The fault didn't run only beneath the hill. It passed under Howard Street, under the school, and under several residential blocks. If the ground lifted too sharply, the town could simply collapse. Hundreds of homes, people, everything. Adam swore under his breath. At that moment, someone knocked on the door, quietly but insistently. He stood, grabbed the crowbar lying beside the bed, just in case, and opened the door a crack. On the threshold stood Ivy Blackwell, barefoot, in pajamas, her eyes red from crying. "What are you doing here? Where are your parents?"
She clenched her fists. "They don't hear me," she whispered. "The voices are louder." Adam knelt to her height. "What voices?" She looked downward, toward the floor, as if the voices were there. "From underground, from the cracks. They say they want to come out, that the darkness is almost at the surface." She lifted her gaze. "Mr. Leone, it isn't just moving, it's learning." Her trembling voice seemed to soak into the room itself. "Come on," Adam said, grabbing his jacket and guiding her outside. "I'll take you home." But Ivy gripped his hand sharply. "No, you don't understand. If I go back home, it will come in. It almost came in last night." Her breath hitched. "It used Ben's voice, but it wasn't him. It was something smart."
Cold prickled across Adam's skin. "You need to be safe." "Safe?" Ivy gave a bitter little laugh. "There's no safety here." They drove toward the town hall. The poppy-red street lights jumped across the hood of the car. The town looked empty, too empty for this hour. "How long have you been hearing it?" Adam asked carefully. "Since 2 weeks after the first tremor." A pause. "But now it's not just children who hear it." Her last word sounded like a warning. "Who else?" "A lot of people." She glanced at the passing houses. "But they think it's their own thoughts, or their fears. It's clever. It knows how to sound like you." A chill crept along Adam's spine. "Why does it talk to you?" Ivy shivered. "Because," she searched for the word, "because I hear silence differently." "How?" She thought for a moment. "People think silence is the absence of sound, but that's not true. Silence has its own noise, very faint, and if you listen to it for too long, sometimes you hear something else." Adam had no idea how to respond. Ivy continued, "It whispers that it's coming up soon, that people are soft, that the living are convenient, that the town already belongs to it." She clutched the armrest. "It wants out, and it's hungry." Lights were on at the town hall. Nina Jiang waited by the entrance. When she saw Ivy, she stiffened. "God, where have you been? What happened?" Nina grabbed the girl by the shoulders. "The ground is talking," Ivy said simply, and walked inside. Nina turned to Adam. "What does that mean? Do you know? Did you see something?" "I only know this. The fault is more active than you thought. We need to immediately—" But Adam didn't finish. The building shook so violently that the glass in the door shattered. The floor trembled. Plaster rained from the ceiling. Outside came a crash, something heavy collapsing. Nina turned pale. "That's not a tremor," she whispered. "That's a scent." Adam rushed to the window.
and what he saw made his heart slam against his throat. The ground at the other end of town was rising, not jolting, not jumping, lifting in a wave, as if something beneath the soil was pushing forward, shoving earth, foundations, pipes aside. The house on the corner simply crumpled like a paper box. The roof folded, walls split, windows exploded outward. "What is that?" Nina cried. Ivy slowly turned her head, her voice soft but steady. "It's coming." Within a minute, ambulance and fire truck sirens filled the streets. People ran from their homes, screaming, grabbing whatever they could. Some fell because the ground beneath their feet vibrated constantly. Adam and Nina ran toward the destroyed block. Ivy clung to Adam's jacket. When they arrived, Adam stopped cold. He couldn't take another step because he saw the ground was opening, not like a crack, not like a split earth, like a mouth. The edges of soil curled upward like lips. Thick, viscous, oily smoke rose from inside, black, sweet-smelling, heavy. "Back! Everybody back!" the deputy sheriff shouted, but his voice drowned in the screams. Then something rose out of the smoke. First a shadow, then a shape, a figure, slightly taller than a human, completely black, not dark, but the absence of light, and it had eyes. No, not eyes, two white, featureless patches where light simply died. Ivy made a small sound, thin as a door hinge creaking. The creature stepped forward. Thick black matter dripped from it like tar. People backed away. Someone screamed. Someone else ran. But the figure lifted its hand. And in that instant, every street lamp on the block exploded. Every single one. Light vanished. The world drowned in darkness, not night's darkness, but its darkness. The creature whispered. Its voice was like stone grinding. Greater voice draws near. And then it lunged at the people, at the town, at everything alive. Adam managed to grab Ivy and dive behind a car. The creature swept past them, knocking 3 people down. One man rose. The other 2 did not. The creature turned back slowly, as if savoring the moment. Nina was so pale she looked carved from marble. "Adam," she whispered, "that's not the blackness. Then what is it?" She shut her eyes. "A messenger. What's coming is much worse." The creature stepped toward them. Ivy lifted her head, and for the first time, she spoke not in her own voice. Low, strange, unnatural. "It does not wait. It no longer waits." And the ground beneath them shook again, deep, long, like the breath of a giant beneath the earth. The blackness under the hill was waking. The night the town froze.
Graham Hallow had not heard silence this dense in decades. A silence in which the sounds of engines, footsteps, even one's own breathing disappeared. A silence in which every living being felt pulled out of reality, as if the world had stopped spinning and only fear remained. Adam Leone pulled Ivy close and dragged her behind an overturned truck. The creature, the Black Herald, stood still in the middle of the street, as though waiting for a command or listening to something beneath the ground. "What is it doing?" Nina gasped, clutching her chest as she crouched behind them. Adam glanced at her. She was in shock, but holding on better than many adults who had already fled, screaming, cursing the town, themselves, fate. Ivy whispered, "It's listening to him." "Him?" Adam repeated. Big voice, the main one, the one growing under the hill. A chill tightened the muscles along Adam's spine. If that thing was only a herald, what was coming next? The herald slowly turned. Its white, blot-like eyes slid over the streets, the houses, the people hiding behind cars, walls, and other bodies. It seemed to be examining the town, memorizing it, assessing it. And when it tilted its head, the entire neighborhood fell silent. Even the children stopped crying, as if ordered to. Then the creature lunged. It didn't run, it displaced. Each of its leaps left a trail of black tar behind, emitting a faint buzzing sound, as if hundreds of tiny voices lived inside it. The herald grabbed a man scrambling to climb into his car. One jerk, and the man vanished inside the oily darkness, dissolving as if he had never existed. He didn't scream. He didn't fight. "Jesus," Adam whispered. It devours people?" Ivy shook her head slowly. "It collects." "Collects what?" "Voices." A fire engine tried to approach, and at that moment the ground near its front wheels exploded like a bursting bubble. A column of thick smoke shot up from under the asphalt. Firefighters stumbled back. One fell, another pulled him up, too late. A black hand, dry and charred like a burnt branch, shot upward and clamped onto the fallen man's leg. He was yanked into the hole so fast he didn't even inhale. "Back! Everybody back!" someone roared. But no one was listening anymore. Fear had become alive. It walked the streets like wind, slipped through windows, pressed on chests, squeezed hearts. And the herald kept searching, methodically, coldly, impatiently. It lifted its head and unleashed a sharp, ripping scream, like metal scraping glass. And then, every streetlight still burning shattered at once. All of them. Light vanished in seconds, as if the darkness simply refused to allow it. The town fell into absolute
black. "He's killing the light on purpose," Ivy whispered. "Light interferes with him. Light is competing noise." Adam realized none of this was random. These were steps, a sequence. The town was descending into darkness so that something under the hill could rise fully. "We need to get to the mayor's building," Nina said sharply. "There are generators and a radio link. We need to warn the county." "The Herald won't let us," Ivy murmured. "He knows where we want to go." Adam gritted his teeth. "Then we'll go anyway." He lifted the girl, and they began running, ducking low, moving along the sides of buildings as the Herald darted through the streets ahead, approaching the town center. A fallen pole blocked the road ahead. They had to cut through alleyways. They ran past an old laundromat, through a trash-filled back passage. Adam felt the ground vibrating, faintly like the shiver of an enormous organism. "He's closer," Ivy whispered. "How much time do we have?" Nina asked. Ivy turned her head slowly and looked at her with an unsettlingly adult gaze. "While he's searching. After that, not a second."
They reached City Hall almost at a sprint. Adam shoved the door open. A few residents were inside, some praying, some shaking, some calling relatives. Everyone looked up when they entered.
"Is this an earthquake? A gas leak? Is it natural?"
Adam opened his mouth, but Ivy spoke first. "It's hunger." Silence thickened. Then a low, sharp crack echoed through the building, as if a massive tree root had snapped underground. Then another, and another. The floor trembled, slowly, steadily, purposefully. "These aren't aftershocks. This is uplift. The hill is rising." People screamed. Adam ran to the window and froze. The hill, that cursed, damned hill, was indeed rising, as if something beneath it were pushing upward, something colossal, something horrifying, something that should not exist. Houses on its slopes were cracking, windows bursting, roofs collapsing, and at the center of the hill a line appeared, thin, black, a fissure. It widened. "This is the end," someone breathed, but Ivy stepped back in terror, her face turning nearly translucent. "It's rising too fast. It's tearing the earth. It's breaking everything. It's—" She gulped air. "It's being born." And at that moment, every light in the town went out at once. Thick, absolute, inhuman darkness engulfed Graham Hollow. People screamed, some prayed, some tried to turn on their phones. The screens stayed black. The darkness was not the absence of light. It was a presence. It breathed, it crawled, it approached. And from the fissure on the hill came a sound, deep, infernal, low as the blast of a long-forgotten god's horn, the sound of breathing. The herald, standing at the far end of the street, lifted its head like a dog hearing its master's call. It stopped, turned, and whispered with a voice every single person heard, "It is coming."
and the town froze. Graham Hollow became a cage, the hill a door, the darkness the only thing left. And Adam understood what would emerge from the fissure could no longer be stopped.
Chapter 5. The Birth of the Great Voice. The darkness pressed against the town hall windows so tightly it felt like water, and the building like a sinking boat. There was no moon, no light, not even the usual depth of night, only a dense blackness in which the world felt unnecessary, accidental. Adam stood by the wall, holding Ivy close. Beside him, Nina, confused, gripping the radio as if she could force a signal out of it by will alone. People around them trembled. Some prayed out loud, but their words sounded dry, like rustling paper, as if the darkness muffled even prayers. And then a sound. Deep, animal, ancient. Boom. The hill struck from within, like a heart learning to beat for the first time. The walls of the town hall shuddered. Boom. The floor rippled. Boom. The windows vibrated, their frames groaning. Ivy snapped her head up. She spoke. "It's looking for footing. It doesn't yet know how to walk in our world." Adam clenched his jaw. "It's not—" "What?" she said. "Not fully here, but close." And then another sound came from the hill, completely different. Creeping, ghastly, like the crunch of dry bones multiplied hundreds of times. The fissure was widening. Suddenly, light flickered outside, weak and sputtering. Someone had turned on floodlights, old portable lamps used for construction work. Beams of light cut through the darkness, and then everyone saw it. Something was rising from the rift. First, a long, twisted appendage, like a charred root. It writhed, searching blindly. Then a second, a third, each one the size of a tree. Trunks, arms, tendrils, no word fit. Nina clamped a hand over her mouth. "Oh, my God!" But the real horror wasn't the appendages. It was what rose between them. Massive, enormous, pulsating. Below it, the ground burned with black light, as if the rift was a window into another realm. Firefighters, a few brave workers, and sheriff deputies stood in the street. They stared at the creature's birth, unable to believe their eyes. One man raised his rifle, fired. The bullet vanished into the creature's darkness, and the great voice answered. Not with a roar, not with a scream, with sound. A sound so low people collapsed to their knees, clutching their ears. Some screamed, others bled from their noses. Glass across buildings cracked.
not shattered, but cracked all at once, as if the sound swept through the town like a shock wave. And people distinctly heard words, not a voice, not speech, but a thought hammered into their minds. I am hunger. I am depth. I am the wall between you and the night. The wall is gone. The messenger yelped like a dog hearing its master and ran toward the hill. The lamps flickered, but one bright surge of light was enough for the townspeople to see more. A massive portion of the creature rose out of the rift. Its chest, if it could be called a chest, looked like woven roots glowing with black light from within. Long slits stretched along its body like enormous ears, thus its name, the Great Voice, the one who hears everything.
And it was already looking at the town, not with eyes, but with its entire hulking form, as if the town were a new toy. A vibration emanated from it, low, like the hum of a colossal engine, mixed with the whisper of thousands of voices. Adam stepped back from the window. "Nina, it can't be real." "It's real," Ivy said quietly, then added, "and it's unhappy." "Unhappy about what?" Nina snapped. Ivy looked down, as if reluctant to say it. "The light. We're shining light at it. Light hurts it. For it, light is pain." At that moment, one of the lamps exploded. The second, too. The third went out, as if crushed by invisible fingers. The creature leaned forward, and the street grew even darker. Adam grabbed Nina's hand. "We need to get downstairs, to the basement. The fading signal might get through if we connect the antenna to the old line." "Basement?" she repeated. "You want to go underground when that is out there?" "Better risking down there than staying here where it can see us." People inside the town hall screamed, barricaded doors. Some had already fainted. Nina nodded. "Everyone down! Move!" But as soon as they opened the basement door, the ground shook so violently the dust rained from the ceiling. Then something slammed against the outside wall of the town hall. From the outside, with tremendous force, the wall bowed inward. "Is it coming for us?" Adam breathed. Ivy shook her head. "No. That's not it." A pause. "It's the messenger. He's looking for me." Adam stared at her. "Why? Why?" The girl slowly looked up, and her voice turned icy. "Because I can hear it. Because I am the door." The wall cracked. The outer masonry crumbled. Crunching footsteps of the messenger echoed outside. He wasn't coming to kill. He was coming to take. And at that moment, the rift on the hill opened completely. The great voice's head was rising, a head the size of a bus, all made of black flesh from which hundreds of thin tendrils stretched like antennae. And from inside the rift came sound, a choir, thousands of voices, layers of whispers, scrapes, sighs, crying, all of it one being, the great voice. It leaned toward the town and spoke. I see you.
Many people's legs gave out. Some fell, some shut their eyes, some simply lost their minds on the spot. Ivy covered her ears, her face twisted in pain. "It's talking to me," she whispered. "It's calling." Adam grabbed her. "Don't you dare! Do you hear me? Don't you dare go to it! It says, if I come, it will stop breaking the town." "Ivy, no." She looked at him with an empty gaze, as if someone else were inside her head. "It promises," a pause, "to devour only me." And the great voice reached toward the town hall. Its silhouette swallowed the remaining light, and Adam understood. There would be no choice. Ivy, the key, the town, the sacrifice, and he, the only one who could decide who would live. And the darkness grew even thicker. Chapter 6. When Children Hear Louder Than All. Ivy Blackwell stood in the basement of the town hall, pressed against the wall. The generator light flickered, but the darkness outside was so thick that the flicker barely illuminated anything at all. She could hear its whisper, but not just the darkness anymore. She heard the great voice, filled with the voices of thousands of lost people. "It's calling me," she said, trembling yet steady. "It wants me to open the door, to let it into the town." Adam gripped her shoulder. "Never, not ever." But Ivy looked at him with a strange, foreign expression. "If I don't go, it will break everything and everyone. It's coming for us right here." Her voice shook, but her words landed like a command. Adam looked at Nina. "We need a plan now." "Generators," she said instantly. "We need light. They fear it. Light helps them lose track." "How does that work?" Adam asked. "Darkness senses light like a shield. It disrupts its learning, breaks its focus. But light isn't a weapon. It only distracts. For right now, that's enough. We can buy a few minutes. That's all we need." Outside, the messenger moved slowly forward, like a shadow made of tar and pain. People, trembling, tried to hold their flashlights steady, but each step of the creature cracked the ground further. Dust, chunks of asphalt and clay burst into the air. Cars toppled onto their sides. Screams, panic, tears, all of it background noise. But Ivy sensed something else. "He's confusing the towns. He hears me louder. Do you understand?" she said to Adam. "I understand, but we need something bigger." At that moment, several shadowy arms of the messenger shot out of the fissure. They lashed at the crowd, grabbing people and dragging them into the black mass. Some screamed, others vanished silently. The town was becoming a hunting ground. "We can't leave them," Nina shouted. "Someone has to help those people." Adam nodded. He knew staying put meant death. He barked orders. "Barricade the basement. Aim whatever light we have at the street. Get people inside, now!" The generators roared. Lamps flared to life and drenched the street in cold light. The messenger recoiled, as if struck by electricity. The shadows reaching for the citizens shrank back, but the creature did not disappear. It watched. It learned. It waited. "He fears the light, but not for long. He adapts quickly." Adam looked at her. "Can you help us?" "I can hear him. I hear, and I can guide, but if I make a mistake, it will kill me." "Then don't make one," Adam said, fists tightening. Meanwhile, in the streets, the first townspeople began to fight back. Some workers grabbed tools, crowbars, axes, pipes. They blocked alleyways, built makeshift barriers against the messenger. People shouted, but for the first time all day, the town wasn't just silent, wasn't just shaking. It was resisting. "This is the start," an old man said, standing beside an overturned car. "We can hold it, maybe for a few minutes, maybe an hour." Ivy closed her eyes and listened to the voices beneath the earth. She whispered words only she could hear, guiding the messenger in ways that steered it from the worst destruction, yet kept it under some fragile form of control. "Just a bit more," she said. "Hold on." Adam watched chaos unfold outside, but he also saw the town beginning to fight back. People weren't just running now, they were standing their ground, against themselves, against the darkness, against the fear, but they were fighting. Then a thunderous crash shook the ground. The great voice was trying to emerge fully from the fissure. Its head was almost completely above the surface, and thin tendrils reached upward from beneath the earth. "It's breaking through," he shouted. "Stay in the light." Ivy, standing beside him, nearly breathless, whispered into the void, "Not yet. Not yet. Hold. Listen to me." And to everyone's astonishment, the shadow, black and dense, froze for a moment, as if considering her words. The town could breathe again, if only barely. But Adam understood this was just a pause before the great voice emerged entirely. A pause before blood, before panic, before children and adults alike would hear voices not meant for human ears. "The town is resisting," he said quietly, "but this is only the beginning of a war." Ivy nodded. "And this war, I have to face it head on." And the generator lights flickered violently, like a warning. The night was far from over, and the darkness beneath the hill was alive. Chapter 7. The Town That Screams. Graham Hollow was no longer a town. It had become a loud, living wound. Houses screamed under the weight of spreading cracks. Streets snapped open. Cars lay overturned. Streetlights flickered on and off, as if playing with people's sanity.
In every window, in every alley, the presence of the great voice was felt. Adam Leone, Ivy, and Nina burst outside. The town beneath them vibrated, quivered, and clenched like a living organism, while the darkness from the hill crawled down the streets like tar. "It's coming!" Nina shouted, pointing at the fissure. "It's time," Ivy whispered. "I hear it completely." The messenger, the creature's herald, leapt forward, smashing through people and barricades. Its shadowy body left deep black streaks on the asphalt, and the sound of its steps, low, metallic, vibrated through the ground. Adam grabbed Ivy's hand. "Light, now! Light, light!" Generators flared to life along the entire street, pouring cold, harsh light across the chaos. The messenger recoiled like a beast caught in a trap. Its hands jerked toward the lights, but they held. "It's angering him," Nina yelled. "Hold it! Keep the light up!" But that was only a pause. The great voice slowly raised its head from the fissure. Its size, colossal. Roots, tendrils, black mass, all of it now fully visible. The town looked like a toy, like a paper model compared to its head. And then it spoke. Not a whisper, not a scream. The voice was 1,000 voices at once, a rumble of earth that pierced through bone. "I hear all. I see all. I hunger, and you are food." People froze. Someone screamed. Someone's mind snapped right where they stood. "It's coming toward us," one of the deputies yelled. "Scatter!" "No!" Ivy screamed, stepping forward. "Don't run! It learns! It listens to fear!" Adam yanked her back. "Listen to me," he shouted. "Only light and control, otherwise—" But it was already too late. The messenger roared and lunged onto the street in front of them. Darkness burst from its body, sweeping people away. Adam barely had time to shield Ivy as a man was flung toward them, swallowed by the black mass. He vanished instantly. No scream, no body. "It's learning," Ivy cried. "It's taking voices to grow stronger." And that was the true horror. Each soul snatched by the darkness fed the great voice. Its power surged, the ground rose beneath its weight, the fissures widened. Adam knew if the messenger reached the basement where they'd hidden everyone, no one would survive. "We need to distract it," he shouted. "Light everywhere!" Trembling townspeople raised flashlights, torches, work lamps, anything that could burn. The messenger froze. The darkness around it twisted into a spiral, fighting the light. "Hold on!" Ivy yelled. "I can guide it!" She stepped forward, raising her hands. The voice in her head merged with the creature's voice. Whispers tangled, but Ivy found the thread, directing the messenger toward a street lined with old houses, ready to collapse. "Go, now!" Adam shouted, pulling her back toward the basement.
But they had taken only one step when the ground cracked beneath them. The inner rumble grew louder. A massive, gnarled hand of the messenger burst from the darkness and grabbed Nina's shoulder.
Adam lunged, grabbing her, but the strength dragging them down was monstrous. "He's using her fear!" Ivy cried. The lights flared brighter, blinding the messenger. The darkness shrank, howling in fury. "Now!" Adam shouted. They tore toward the basement. A stream of black mass lunged after them, but the light held it back. At the last moment, Nina, trembling and wounded, stayed at the threshold to keep the light aimed outward, buying the others a chance. Adam and Ivy stumbled down the stairs. The basement beams groaned, the floor vibrated. And behind them came Nina's scream, not human anymore, but twisted, filled with pain and darkness. She's the first victim," Ivy whispered. "And the town is only beginning to scream," Adam said, covering her ears. "But we have to survive." At that moment, the fissure on the hill shuddered even more violently, and the voice of the great voice rolled across the town. "You all hear me. All your fears are mine. And now I hear you completely." The town went silent, and every person felt that night was far from over. Chapter 8. Walking Through the Blackness. The town lay in darkness, as if every trace of light had been squeezed out of it, and the air had thickened into a heavy tar that clung to people's skin and filled their lungs. Graham Hollow was no longer a town. It was an arena for the creature rising from the depths. Adam Leone led Ivy down the ruined street toward the central square where a few more generators were supposed to be. Glass crunched beneath their feet, the asphalt sagged, and the ground shifted as though something crawled beneath it. "He's walking right down the streets," Ivy said, gripping Adam's hand. "He's listening to our steps, our hearts. He's learning." Adam looked around at the ruined houses, facades cracked, steel frames twisted and thrown onto the roads, streetlights lying about like broken dolls. And in the distance he saw a silhouette, the messenger, stretching like a shadow, its waves of darkness sweeping aside everything living. "If he reaches the square, the generators won't handle it." "Then we have to direct him," Ivy shouted. "I can use his attention, but I need to be in front." Adam nodded, and they ran forward. Ivy stepped into the open street. Her eyes rolled back in the glow of the street lights, and her whispering voice guided the darkness like a river current. This way, not there." The messenger slowed, as if listening, but learning every second. Darkness thickened around him, swallowing streets, people, and cars. Every scream became another fragment of his mind, every fear another strength for the loud one. Adam saw a few townsfolk trying to block the path of the darkness. They dragged furniture, poles, trash bins, but the messenger swept past them without even touching them, like water carving its way around stones.
"It's too much," Adam yelled. "We can't hold him back." "Stay in the light," Ivy cried. "He fears the light." The generators on the square flickered to life with blistering brightness. For the first time, the messenger recoiled, folding into a thicker mass of blackness.
But the victory was only a mirage. From the rift on the hill came a deep, resonant rumble that pierced the shadows, and the town trembled once more. "He's adapting," Ivy whispered. "He's learning faster than we can think." Then the worst happened. Out of the ground burst new tendrils, tearing apart the streets. They grabbed the people who hadn't managed to hide. Screams, shrieks, the thudding of bodies against the ground, everything merged into a unified cannonade of terror. Adam lunged forward, trying to pull a woman with a child to safety, but the tendril was faster. They vanished in an instant. Ivy squeezed her eyes shut. "I hear them, their voices, they're all inside." "We have to reach the generators," Adam shouted. "It's our only chance." Their path led across the street where the messenger had just passed. The town looked like a battlefield, and each step was a trial. Darkness clawed at them. Black tendrils shot from the ground, smashing walls and cars like toys. "Hold on to me," Adam said, grabbing Ivy's hand. "I hear him," Ivy screamed. "He wants me to turn around." "Don't look back. Only the light."
The generators roared. Street lights flooded the road with brightness. The darkness recoiled for a moment, and the messenger froze like a teacher observing a disobedient student. Adam noticed how every motion, every ripple of the creature's form was being analyzed. "He's studying us," he muttered. "Every step, every fear." Ivy stepped forward, raising her hands. "Light! Shine the light there!" she yelled, directing the creature's attention along the streets, leading him away from the people. Then the unexpected happened. The messenger, enormous and horrifying, stiffened, and the ground around him cracked, releasing a low, piercing roar. "He hears me," Ivy said. "I can guide him, but if I mess up—" Adam gripped her shoulder. "Then don't mess up, ever." Darkness surged toward the people again. But with the light, the townsfolk's resolve, and Ivy's guidance, the messenger moved toward the square. For the first time in hours, the town was able to resist. But Adam knew it was only a pause. The town was wounded, people were losing strength, and the blackness beneath the hill was preparing its next step. "We bought time," Adam said, "but this isn't over." Ivy nodded. "And the closer he comes, the louder the town screams. And it's dangerous for him to hear that scream, if he hears the fear." The ground shook violently beneath them again. The messenger raised his tendrils. The town fell silent, and everyone understood. The blackness was advancing, and every scream fed it. Chapter 9. In the Heart of the Blackness. Graham Hollow was no longer a town. It had become a ruin, soaked in black tar and dust. Houses lay collapsed, cars were overturned, streets split by gaping cracks, and the air was thick with smoke and terror. Adam Leone led Ivy toward the rift on the hill. The generators on the square fought against the darkness, but the light barely pierced the dense black mass where tendrils and the shadows of the messenger drifted. "We're almost there," Adam said.
How long can you hold on?" "Long," Ivy whispered. "As long as I can hear him completely. As long as I can guide him. But he's learning. Fast. We have to seal the rift, or the Loud One will swallow the whole town." They reached the edge of the fissure. A deep gash in the earth yawned before them, emitting a low, vibrating hum. From within it, the head of the Loud One slowly rose, colossal, its roots and tendrils burrowing through the earth like living antennae. "He hears every sound, every fear. If we make a mistake, he'll consume everything." Adam looked at the darkness already covering half the town. "Then we act now." The generators roared to full power, and the floodlights washed the square in white light. The messenger froze, its tendrils retreating, and the Loud One slowly turned its massive head toward them. A tremendous voice rang in the ears of every remaining resident. "You think you can stop me?"
"Stay in the light," Ivy shouted, stepping forward. "He fears the light." Adam and Ivy began placing the floodlights around the edges of the rift, forming a corridor of light. The Loud One hesitated, as if in pain. Tendrils stretching toward people recoiled, like they were being pushed back by an invisible force. But then the ground trembled. A giant surge of blackness burst from the fissure. The figure of the messenger leapt forward, sweeping aside everything in its path. Adam managed to shove Ivy out of the way. "No!" the girl screamed. "He's using me!" "Focus on the light," Adam shouted, lifting one of the floodlights. "Only the light!" And then a miracle occurred. The Loud One recoiled, as though the pain from the light struck deep into its mind. The tendrils retreated. The darkness around the fissure began to shrink. For a moment the town became still, as if the very organism of Graham Hollow was fighting back. But the price was unbearable. Nina, who had stayed by the generators, couldn't hold the incoming wave of darkness. A tendril of the messenger burst into the building and seized her. Nina's scream echoed across the shuttered square. Adam understood instantly. She was gone, dissolved into the blackness. "Nina!" he shouted, but it was too late. Ivy trembled violently, clutching her hands. "He hears me," she whispered. "If I slip, we all die." Adam grabbed her shoulders. "You won't slip. Only the light. Only the light."
They placed the final floodlights. The Loud One loomed, its colossal head blocking half the sky. And then Ivy began whispering words no one else could hear, words that guided the darkness back toward the fissure, like invisible threads. "He's retreating," she cried, straining to hold her focus. The blackness around the town began to collapse inward. Tendrils vanished into the rift. The messenger stood motionless, trying to learn, to adapt, but Ivy's will and the blinding light held him at bay. "Almost," the girl whispered. almost closed. But the earth trembled again. The fissure rose as if something inside was preparing for one final surge. "Just a little more," Adam shouted, steadying her. And when the flood of light filled the entire rift, the darkness roared like a massive beast. The loud one let out a deep, infernal scream, and its massive head withdrew into the crack. The blackness folded in on itself, sinking into the depths. The town fell silent. Adam lowered his arms. Ivy, shaking, leaned against him. "We did it," she whispered. "For now." They knew the town had survived, but the blackness beneath the hill was still alive, and the loud one would return. But for this moment, in the ruins of Graham Hollow, only the survivors remained, light flickering around them, and the faint, fragile sound of life resisting.
Chapter 10. Echo of the Darkness. Graham Hollow was slowly coming back to life. The light of dawn could not fully drive away the remnants of darkness, but it spilled across the streets of the ruined town, casting the gray ruins in a cold glow. The air was thick with dust and smoke, but no longer with fear. Now there was a cautious silence. Adam Leone stood in the square, holding Ivy's hand. The girl looked exhausted, almost empty, but alive. Around them lay the remains of generators, floodlights, and mangled vehicles. "We did it," he said quietly. "But the cost." "Nina," Ivy whispered, clenching her fists. "She—" Adam lowered his head. "She didn't make it, but she helped us buy time. Without her, we wouldn't have managed." The town lay in ruins. Buildings cracked, streets had caved in, cars lay overturned, but the survivors were beginning to emerge from their shelters. People gathered belongings, searched for each other, hugged children, cried silently, and whispered prayers. Adam glanced at the hill. The rift from which the loud one had erupted was slowly shrinking, but the ground still trembled. Ivy, listening to the faint echo, said, "It's still there." "Still there?" Adam asked. "Below, the darkness hasn't left. It's watching. It's waiting." Adam clenched his teeth. "Then we have to be ready." They stepped onto the street where survivors were trying to restore some semblance of order. Some gathered people into groups to help the wounded. Others began reinforcing buildings, checking basements, preparing for a possible new attack. "We survived," a woman said, holding a child. "But the town—" "The town is broken," Adam said quietly. "But we are alive." Ivy approached the edge of the rift. She crouched, pressing her hands to the ground, and listened. "I hear something down there." "What?" Adam asked. She raised her eyes, full of worry, but resolute. "It hasn't gone completely. It's waiting to come out again." "Then we'll have to keep the light, always," Adam said. "And we will," Ivy replied, "as long as we can." The town began to stir. People helped one another, rebuilt homes, cleared streets.
But everyone knew Graham Hollow would never be the same. The memory of the darkness beneath the hill lingered in the air, its whisper, its hearing, its victims gone forever. Adam and Ivy stood in the square, watching the survivors try to breathe life back into the town. "We saved them," he said quietly. "For now," Ivy replied. "But the darkness is still alive. It will always be waiting." And the hill behind them trembled slightly, as if breathing, hiding within it the remnants of horror. The light from generators, lanterns, and fires reflected across its slopes. The darkness had not vanished completely, but now it knew the town was ready to resist. Adam squeezed Ivy's hand. "We'll be ready," he said. "Always," she nodded. And in that moment the wind carried a faint whisper heard only by the two of them. "I hear you, and I wait." The town held its breath. The darkness beneath the hill remained, but so did Graham Hollow.
Epilogue. Echo from under the hill. Several weeks had passed. Graham Hollow was slowly recovering. Houses were being repaired, streets cleared, but the town bore its scars. The asphalt was cracked, roofs punctured, windows replaced with plywood shields. Every corner reminded everyone of the night when the darkness beneath the hill rose and almost swallowed everything. Adam Leone and Ivy Blackwell stood on the outskirts of the town, watching the hill. The rift that led to the Loud One had been sealed, but the ground around it trembled slightly. Sunlight made the darkness less dense, but no one doubted it. It was there, below, waiting. "We survived," Ivy said, leaning on Adam's shoulder. "For now," he replied, "it's still there." The townspeople returned to their daily lives, but fear lingered. Everyone heard whispers in the wind. Everyone noticed strange shadows that seemed to move on their own. Some children closed their eyes when looking at the hill, and adults tried not to speak of what they had seen. "We have to be ready," Adam said. "If it comes back, we must meet it with light." "And that is how we live," Ivy nodded. "We hold the light, and it won't break us." The town was beginning to revive, but the echo of the darkness still lingered in the air, and those who survived the night knew it had not gone away. It was patient. It was waiting for the next mistake. On the hill the ground trembled slightly, like the breathing of a sleeping beast. A thin wind carried a barely audible whisper to the town. "I see you, and I remember." And in that moment, Graham Hollow understood. The survivors held the town,
But the darkness beneath the hill was always near, always, and it was watching. The lights on the streets flickered faintly, reflecting off the ruins. But the darkness waited.